I'm Daniel, the past life regressionist, and it's time to begin.
Lift off and the clock has started.
This is Timeless Spirituality. Enjoy each of your time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Timeless Spirituality. It's been a little while, so I'm happy to be back. I'm excited for the new episodes that will be coming out and excited for the future. With regards to the future and what I mentioned in the last intro a couple weeks ago, the original plan was to release a new Mirror of Time episode today. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while before I release it because that one episode has now turned into 5. I have written approximately 39,000 words for the piece, so it's just turned into an entity all of its own. So at this point, I'm hoping to have it out some point this summer or in the fall. But with that, I'm going to be switching to bi-weekly episodes for a little while because I'm pouring a lot of time into the new Mirror of Time episodes, and I just want to make it the best that it can be, and I also don't want to lose quality on other episodes. So for a little while, every other week, there'll be a new episode, and I'll get back to weekly episodes hopefully very soon. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'm going to include a little message from my friend Dani, that witch next door, because she has just released an online astrology course. So I'm going to press play on that right now, and then I'll come say a quick goodbye or hello right after. So thanks for being here, guys.
Hey, time traveler. Are you trying to learn your birth chart and you're struggling through all those confusing layers of signs, houses, planets, degrees, aspects? I have a 4-level self-paced course that makes this process so much clearer. Hi, I'm Dani. I'm that witch next door. I'm an instructor and mentor for folks like you that are trying to learn all of this trendy new astrological information for themselves in their own lives. Each level of my course is specifically designed to dive deep into the chart and help make sense of all those different parts and pieces. I developed this course to directly improve all the problems that I personally encountered on my journey to learning my own birth chart so that you don't have to. All of the information is presented in a way that is digestible and set up to promote the most effective retention and set you up for real success. By the end of our last level, you'll be ready to practice interpreting the transits and the aspects for yourself. You can visit thatwitchnextdoor.com/astrology for more information and to order yours today. You can also use code TIME to learn for a 10% discount off of your bundle today. This is my way of saying thank you so much for being part of the Timeless Spirituality community. I enjoy working with all of you so much that listen to me over on That Witch podcast. So don't forget, if you're struggling to learn your birth chart, you want to finally make sense of all of this, visit thatwitchnextdoor.com/astrology and use code TIME to learn for 10% off at checkout. Thank you so much, time traveler. Thank you, Daniel, the past life regressionist, and I'll see you all in class.
Thank you so much for that message there, Dani, that witch next door. I really appreciate it. Is that a little over the top, everyone? Okay, anyways, where were we? Yeah, go check out the course. I've had a personal reading with Dani before, and she's good. She knows what she's doing. I love listening to her astrology episodes on her podcast, That Witch podcast. She's good. She's a great teacher, and I highly recommend checking out the course. Yeah. So with that said, that's my quick pivot. If you would like to book a regression with me to discover who, when, and where you have been throughout time, you can reach me on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist or on my website, thepastliferegressionist.com. And now, it's time to begin. Gary, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you, Daniel?
I'm excited for today. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be grounded and philosophical in the best of ways. I think that's the best way to put it.
Well, I do have a tendency to wax that way.
It's going to be a cool one today.
All right.
So, you ready to dive in with the first question?
Let's do it.
And so I'm doing something a little different this season also. I'm doing a guess the year for the song. Now, I'll say this. I'm just going to lead with this. If your song hasn't changed since you first told me, which was a couple months ago, then I already know the answer because I looked at the song at the time, so it's almost like a cheat. So I just wanted to, because I don't want to cheat during this. So I just wanted to put that out there for everyone. And yeah, so once you give your explanation for it, I'll say when the year was when the song came out. I'll probably get it within 2 years. And yeah, so it's the new game I'm playing for season 3.
Okay.
So, Gary, what is your favorite song about time? Oh yeah, the other thing. I'm going to keep my hands up so you're going to see the entire time that I'm not typing anything.
Okay.
So, Gary, what is your favorite song about time and why?
It is Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce. Hands down. It's so poignant, and it's about making sure that every moment is absolutely important to you and that you relish every second that you have with the people that you love. And that's really what it comes down to.
I like that explanation. And you saw me make a move to my left. That was to adjust my headphone monitor. But as you'll see with my right hand now, my phone is on my right. So monitor on the left, phone on the right.
Okay.
So 1973.
I think that's probably. Are you saying that because you know it?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. I was going to say 73 or 74.
So this is fun. You want to do or pull up Wikipedia right now?
And take a look. I think you probably have it. Oh, my phone's turned off.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to double check it really quick then.
Okay.
I'm having fun playing this game. So far, I've pretty much gotten everyone right, but there have been, I think, 2 where I wasn't aware of this song, so I got those. I mean, I just straight up said, I have no idea. Never heard the song before. Okay, Time in a Bottle, 1973.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Look at you.
So what was really cool about when you told me about that song back when we did your session a few months ago, I went and listened to it, and I thought I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. And then my writing partner sent me this song called Walking Back to Georgia about a month after your session. I'm like, wait, where have I seen this guy's name before? It's like, oh, this is the guy who wrote or did Time in a Bottle. So
totally,
you introduced me to him, and I felt familiar at that point when I heard Walking Back to Georgia. So yay.
Yeah, you should totally go back and look at his library. I mean, when it comes to, folk artists and some of the stuff, I mean, I'm sure you've heard Bad Leroy Brown and some of the other stuff that he's done that'll ring a bell for you that you just don't realize that you heard as a kid and just kind of played in the background, and, the adults around you would listen to it. He's one of those kinds of guys.
I don't know if my parents were ever listening to folk back then. But yeah, I mean, great stuff. Very talented songwriter. I mean, I've absolutely fallen in love with Walking Back to Georgia. It's just, yeah, great lyrics, great melody. Yeah, so thank you for introducing me to him.
Absolutely. Always love doing that.
So, are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Who is Gary?
Who is Gary? I got to say that even at 51, Gary's pretty undefined. I mean, until recently, I thought I knew who I was. And the session that we did together kind of turned that upside down a little bit, because it made me realize that I've got to learn a lot about who I am and who I want to be. And, I'm a dad, I think I'm a relatively kind person. And, I'm a person who, really enjoys life and enjoys what life has to offer. But outside of that, man, I am trying to stay away from those definitions, because I'm just trying to stay away from caging myself in and feeling like I have to respond in a way that meets those definitions all the time. And, it's, I'm just a work in progress, you know?
I like that. How'd that feel talking about that?
It's different because if you would have asked me 5 years ago who I am, I would have had a whole checklist for you. I would have said that I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. And one of the biggest growths for me over that period of time is realizing that I don't necessarily need to define myself. And I need to be okay not necessarily defining myself. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. There's the old adage that there's a lot of people out there in this world that want to conquer it, that go out and want to try and conquer the world. And I want to be the one that's conquered the need to conquer it, and to not feel like I have to constantly one up myself or constantly be better than someone else or constantly overcome things. I want to just be able to be and be okay with it and enjoy what life has to offer.
What'd I tell you, everyone? Grounded and philosophical. Well, thank you for sharing all that.
Of course.
So, want to talk about your past life regression experience?
Yeah, I do. It was a wild ride because I want to not only talk about what I actually experienced, but the expectations that I had going in or lack thereof, and then what I actually experienced versus what I thought. Because you warned me going in, right? That very rarely is what people expect what they actually experience. And you can hear that and think you understand it, but until you actually do it, you don't really understand it. It's something that takes experiencing to fully grasp. So
why does no one ever listen to me when I say
it's our arrogance, right? We think we got a hold on it. And when we started the regression, and it was kind of like a guided, kind of like a guided visualization when we began. I think the thing that was most profound for me is how I'm completely conscious the entire time. There's nothing that is keeping me from being aware of everything around me. I was always constantly aware during the session of everything that was happening in the house. I could hear things. It's not like what I would think of as hypnosis, right? Where you're almost like on some sort of weird drug or something and you go someplace else. There's nothing like that. And I think I may have told you this before, but what I liken it to, when you started to ask me questions and things just started kind of coming out, and I started telling you things and I started listening to myself do it, it was like when you're in the car and you're listening to a radio and a song comes on, a song you haven't heard in a long time, and you start singing along to the song, but you're not thinking about the fact that you're singing it. You know somehow all of the words, and the words just kind of spill out of you, and it becomes instinctual, and it becomes you're reacting to the music, and it's just happening. You're not thinking about what's the next lyric. That lyric just comes out of you. And if there's ever a question asked, like there was a couple of times where you asked me a question during the session that stopped me in my tracks, and I didn't have any idea how to respond. My head just kind of went blank, and I realized I don't know the answer to that. And then you'd ask me another question and the lyrics would come out again, and they just start to flow again. And I guess that's the best analogy I can use for how this happened, and how I was telling a story without any thought. I was telling a story without any preconception, or you're not thinking about, okay, what should happen next. It's flowing, and it becomes instinctual, and it's really a remarkable experience. So I just kind of wanted to get that out there first, because it's hard to describe for people that haven't done it and haven't worked with you before to understand what the process is like.
Gee, can I borrow that? That was really good.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that. Thank you.
it's the only way that I can describe it.
Hmm.
Singing along to the radio and not thinking about it.
Hmm.
So,
That was brilliant.
well, good. I'm glad I could help. So, as far as my session was concerned, I think there were two lives that came back to me, and the first one came a little bit tentatively because you reach, just like anything else, you kind of get into a flow state, and when you get into that flow state and you fully become relaxed, and you're not questioning what you're saying, and you just allow, I don't want to say, you basically you allow the words to come, like you're not even thinking about what it is. And sometimes images will pop into your head and they're not even necessarily in order. So like an image will pop into my head that made me have to backtrack. I'll be like, oh wait, but there was this thing. Kind of like listening to a little kid describe a movie that they just saw with their friends, where they're hopping around. And sometimes that would happen. And sometimes that happened during the session. But the first life that came to me, that came out of me, came to me, I don't even know how really to describe it, was it answered a specific question for me. Someone had recently come into my life quickly and exited my life quickly. And it was a very short, intense relationship. It was unique in that both of us felt there was some sort of connection, some sort of distant connection. And this person had said to me multiple times, it's really strange. I feel like I must have known you in a previous life. I don't understand this. This is weird. But like I said, the relationship only lasted for a few months and it was in and out. It was very strange. And the first life that we visited, bigger than heck, she was there. And I I was in this field. I was trying to plow a field with this ox or cow or something. I'm not a rancher or farmer, I don't know. But what I do know is that I clearly was not very good at it. And I was trying to help and I knew I was on someone else's property and I was trying to assist and I wasn't very good at it. I went into the house where I saw this person who was a caregiver to the person that I perceived to be her father, who was very ill and dying. And it was clear to me in that moment that I was someone who didn't really belong in that environment, but I was so drawn to her that I was doing everything I could to try and help her, try and, keep up the grounds, try and keep up the land, try and do whatever I could to assist. And part of the regression was, again, oddly enough, her telling me that she wanted me to go. And I had some sort of opportunity somewhere else. Something was waiting for me somewhere, but I was putting off that opportunity because of her, and she knew it. And she essentially told me, don't stay here for me, you need to go. And that carried on for a little bit. And essentially, I left upset and frustrated and somewhat heartbroken. But it was short. That portion of the regression was very short, but it gave me a couple of answers, like I said before. One was, have I known this person before? And it was clear to me that I did. And I don't for one second believe that that was our only time together. I think that she and I have crossed paths many times. I truly believe that. But the big part of that, and when we talk about the next life, the big part of that was that I have a tendency in my current life to put aside my own needs, to put aside my own wants and dreams and hopes for the sake of other people. And I have a history in my life of essentially martyring myself for those around me, always working longer hours so other people didn't have to, always doing the hardest portion of a job without asking anybody else for help because I knew that I could just get it done. Always going without so that, people I'm in a relationship with could have all of the things that they wanted. And that moment made me realize that this is something that I have been doing a lot for a long time. I mean, and in several aspects of my existence. And, that was brief. That part of the regression was brief, but it was super powerful for me. And then somehow we transitioned, and the next thing I know, I'm wearing like evening wear from about the turn of the 19th into the 20th century, and like walking home at dusk and wondering what I'm doing. The streets are wet, and I'm walking home, and I walk into this shanty, and I'm like this. It was like this brick and wood building. I could tell that I was somewhere on the East Coast of the US. This brick and wood building going up, and I realized that I lived there, but it was disgusting. It was like this, like the giant bunkhouse that was rickety and going to fall over, and it was really nasty. And I remember trying to sneak in to get up and go to bed because I had been up for crazy amounts of hours because I had been out partying, trying to meet this girl that I was obsessed with. And again, girls, it figures. always gearing my life around them, and trying to get up back into bed and get undressed because the clothes that I was wearing were rented, and I had spent my rent money on trying to get those clothes. So I didn't have room, or I didn't have any money left to pay for my room. And I was worried that the lady that I rented the room from was going to kick me out. I mean, it was super graphic. I mean, all of these, and it was crazy because I felt that anxiety. And, without going into, I don't want to go into crazy detail about that whole regression, but there was a time in which I ended up trying to figure out how to make that money because I worked at some sort of textile factory, and I was essentially just lugging these big bales of fabric all day. But I was completely obsessed with this woman who was a young kind of party girl, very wealthy, from a wealthy family on the other side of town. Not really sure how I first saw her, but she was a socialite and trying to get her attention, which I really had no business doing, but I just had to. I had to meet this woman, had to be a part of her life. So I was trying to figure out how to make money. I apparently fought at times, like boxing. They have these basically impromptu fights that people would bet on, and locals from the town would come and watch, and there was these kind of janky rings that they would make. And I decided to go do that because I had to make rent. I had to find a way to make rent money. And so I went to this fight. I got in the ring with someone.
This is so messed up. I'm sorry for jumping. I'm just remembering it playing out.
Yes.
Yeah, so, it's like a bad Hallmark movie.
It really is. It really is. But
sorry for jumping in there.
No, it's great. It's because it's so bizarre.
Just when you think you know where this story's going, you don't.
Yes. And so all of a sudden I'm getting in the ring. I'm fighting, and I see her, this woman that I'm obsessed with, come in and sit down in one of the first couple of rows next to the ring. And I'm so distracted by the fact that she's there, and I'm paying more attention to seeing if she's watching me. I'm like watching her watching me out of the corner of my eye while I'm in this fight, which, at the time is not exactly clean. I mean, it's, I did have my hands wrapped with something, but it was more like pre-wrap, like like this.
Yeah, like no boxing gloves.
Exactly.
Pretty close to bare knuckle.
Pretty close. And because I wasn't paying attention, it actually saved me. And this is what's so crazy, Daniel, is how graphic this moment was, that I'm kind of watching her out of the corner of my eye. The other fighter swings at me, and I don't have a time to react, but I flinch, and I kind of hunch down and drop my head. And when I did, he punched the top of my head. and it broke his hand. And it shook me because he hit me pretty hard, but he broke his hand on the top of my head, and it was his right hand, his dominant hand. And that was what allowed me to beat him. This freak moment, because I wasn't paying attention, I flinched. He hits me in the top of the head, breaks his hand, and that's what lets me beat him, because then his dominant hand he can't even use. And so anyway, so I go and I collect my money. And as I'm leaving the theater, this wasn't really a theater. It was well, I guess it was kind of a theater, but they
Mind
had
if I jump in really quick?
Yeah, of course.
From what I remember, you had already met her at this point, right?
I had met her briefly,
yeah,
at that party where I had rented the clothes.
Yeah.
And
so I just wanted to set that up for what comes next.
Yes. So essentially, I run into them with her friends out in front. We talk briefly. I lie about what I do for a living. And, and then I kind of go my own way. Giddy because I got to meet her, giddy because I won the fight. The top of my head hurts, and I'm pretty beat up, but then I go home. But what's wild is I wake up and she's standing next to the bed. She's standing there, like, kind of giggling and saying, yeah, I knew you were lying. I knew you were full of it. And then essentially she invites me to go and hang out with her. It was the weirdest thing. And so I spend the day with her and some of her friends. And, I don't want to drag this on too long and get into too many of the specifics, but essentially she then invites me to this party, because this is the big moment. She invites me to this big gala thing that's happening. And so much so that she has this guy come pick me up. They get me dressed up. They get me cleaned up, take me to a barber. I get, and a tailor and the whole kit and caboodle, right? And then I go to this party, and it's massive. It's huge. And this is what is the most important and the weirdest part of it. She never shows up. I go to this party that she invited me to, the party of a lifetime for me to go to, and she never shows up. But even that wasn't the lesson. The lesson there was I was in a room in that party. I was in a room with the most influential people in the city that I was in. And I'm not even really sure what city I was in. At the time, it didn't seem important, but it was a major metropolitan area at the time. And it was like some sort of Great Gatsby party. Like, it was crazy, the money and the alcohol that was flowing. Like, everything's covered in gold and silver and gemstones and crystals and all kinds of things. Anyway, I spent the entire night basically standing against the wall waiting for her to show up. I never once went up and introduced myself to anyone. I never once went up and tried to engage in any conversation. I let my insecurities about who I thought I was and how I didn't belong overtake and prevent me from putting myself out there and preventing me from taking advantage of that opportunity. And we can come back to that. But to end how the actual regression ended, I never saw the girl again. And then it ended with me dying in that bed.
Very shortly after, right?
Yes, very shortly after, of some lung. I just know that it was some sort of lung disease, something that I had gotten, from working in that mill where I had been inhaling something or something. But it was some sort of lung issue. And yeah, I died in that bed shortly after, very young, of some sort of lung issue. And in both of those regressions, both portions of it, the lesson was pretty clear to me that I either allow my concern for other people and thus my own insecurities, almost like codependency, or I allow my insecurities to prevent me from taking advantage of opportunities when they come along. And when I really think about that, and I think about my current life and the current life I'm living, I can list all kinds of opportunities that I let go by because I didn't think I was good enough, or I didn't think it was appropriate for me, or I thought that it would reflect too negatively on someone else, or the hardship would be too much for someone else. And I never had the courage to let those other people decide that for themselves. I never said, hey, look, I want to do this, but this is what this is going to mean. How do you feel about it? Instead, I would just make that decision for them and just suck it up and not do it. And it's so frustrating because it makes me wonder, these really simple lessons about not stepping up, not taking advantage of those opportunities. How many lives have I lived and not learned that lesson? How many times have I done this over and over and over again? And how many times have I I don't want to say wasted my life. That's not fair. How many times have I not lived my life to its fullest capacity because I chose, out of fear or codependency, to not really go for it? And it really made me stop and be aware in my life now. Because Dana, we talked about, if would be interested in doing another session, and I absolutely am interested in doing another session because this was super powerful for me. But I'm not ready yet, because this particular lesson and this particular message that I got was something that I have to sit with for a little bit longer. And it's something that I have to really work on and really make sure I'm constantly aware of in my life, because it's a big part of who I am, and it's a big part of that I need to overcome. And it's yeah, man, it was so vivid, bro. It was so vivid when it started flowing. And the particulars down to the mustache that I had. I remember being shocked at looking at myself and having like this, not really a handlebar mustache, but having this like funky mustache that kind of threw me off. And looking at myself in the mirror and seeing that, and it's funny though, the other details, like I don't know the city I was in, because apparently
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It wasn't important at the time.
Sorry for jumping in there. That's like the
No,
third time I've done
no,
that.
please jump in. You got to keep me on track. I can ramble.
Actually, you know what? I do have a question for you, if it's
Yeah.
okay. And if you're uncomfortable asking or answering this, we can totally edit this out.
Okay.
With regards to seizing opportunities, I sent you a message, I want to say it was maybe a week or so after your regression, maybe even 2 weeks after. Do you remember the message I sent you?
I do remember.
What came up for you when I sent you that message? We don't even need to say what it was. What came up for you?
Well, and we could say what it was. We were talking about are you talking about the D&D?
Yes.
About the D&D thing?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pursue that, but I didn't pursue that because it's different. It sounds like I'm just justifying.
It's okay.
I'm justifying a little bit. I was still a little thrown, honestly, by the regression, and still processing a lot. I mean, we're months out from when we met, and it's still, there's pieces that come in. And honestly, I've laid in bed at night and tried to revisit it and gone back and kind of tried to get myself back into that same visualized state, and tried to revisit it. And I've been successful a couple of times. And it's been really interesting because a few more small details have come out. It's mostly, when I'm in that state, it's mostly visualizing it. So there's more graphic details about things like in that first one, about what the house looked like and the grounds, and some of that stuff became more clear. but yeah, I don't think I was ready to act on that message that you sent. I'm
In
yeah,
all fairness, I was pretty vague about it too.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, just so for everyone listening, sometimes there are similarities that come up during sessions, and sometimes there are similarities that I cannot ignore, because when I have one client bring up Dungeons and Dragons and then another client bring up Dungeons and Dragons just a few days later, I'm like, oh, come on. I've never heard this brought up in the, how many hundreds of these that I've done. I'm like, they just happen to be a few days apart. Like, come on, what's going on here? So, but yeah, it just probably wasn't the time for you, which is
Yeah,
totally
it
cool.
wasn't. It wasn't. And I think, like we started when we first started talking today, I have to be able to, one of the biggest things for me here is having the grace, giving myself the grace to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm really looking forward to potentially doing another session with you. But I have to be able to give myself the grace to understand that I'm just not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And understanding this is a growth. This is about growing and becoming a better whatever we are. A better, I was gonna say a better human, but who knows? Who knows what we are. And that's a big part of this whole process for me.
Mm-hmm. I guess with regards to that one, so if you're okay with me continuing this line of inquiry, since I was so vague about it, what was it that made it feel like it wasn't the right time for you?
I honestly felt like it was potentially opening the door for, at least the way that I interpreted it, it was potentially opening the door for a relationship, friendship/relationship that I knew in that moment I didn't have the energy to participate in, if that makes sense. I knew that it wasn't fair for me to engage someone potentially, male, female, whatever, but to engage someone potentially, knowing that I was not going to be committed to whatever came out of it.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because that's a lesson for me. Because in my mind, well, one, the reason I was so vague about it is because I don't understand that world, like the Dungeons and Dragons world.
Yeah.
And the way that it was explained to me was it almost felt like it was an opportunity for a project. So in my mind, I'm just like, oh, something fun where there's philosophy and Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't even take into consideration like dynamics. So I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up, because like, yeah, that wasn't even something I thought about. So thank you so much for telling me that.
Yeah, I knew myself well enough that I just knew. Yeah, I knew I didn't have that. I didn't have that energy, and I didn't think it was fair to begin a conversation if I knew it could lead somewhere that I wasn't prepared to take it.
I respect that. How do you feel talking about that right now?
It feels responsible. It feels like it's introspective enough to understand, and this goes for all aspects of our life. I mean, we have to be really, really careful about opening doors that we're not prepared to step through. And I'm not saying that you don't be kind to everyone. I'm not saying that you don't engage people, but you just have to be prepared that when you do engage, to be committed to that engagement. And, a lot of times we are in our relationships in such a half-ass way, that we think that things are going to be one way and they turn out to be something else, and we're not prepared for it. And it ends up ending in some sort of negative thing because one party is expecting something and is not reciprocated. And I knew myself enough in that moment to know that I wouldn't be able to reciprocate in any way, whether it's friendship or whatever, or a partnership in a project, whatever it may have been. I just knew that I just didn't have it. I didn't have it to give.
I think the world would be a better place if more people took that approach.
Yeah,
Your approach, I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think you did the right thing then.
It's about knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it's
I think
about
that's
learning
super
yourself, and
important.
that's all part of this process. I mean, that's why I came to you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Is trying to expand what knowledge I have of myself. That's why it's so hard for me when you ask that very first question, who is Gary? Well, I don't really know. I mean, that's why we're here. It's all a big learning process, and who knows who the hell I am? I certainly don't. I like to pretend like I do. We all pretend like we do, but yeah, not so much.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. And yeah, thank you for teaching me a thing or two in the process. I appreciate that. Sometimes I need to take a step back and look at a bigger picture. So thank you.
Yes, of course.
So what came up for you with the higher self?
You know, this is a hard one for me. The higher self, it was interesting because you were asking me some questions that I had asked you to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them turned out to be absolutely nothing. It just turned out to be nothing. I had asked some questions about, my romantic future and my romantic past. And one of those questions was answered, and it had to do with that person that was in that very first portion of the regression. Is that person ever going to come back into my life? And it was immediately clear. I mean, that's the thing that's so wild, is that the answer came out of me. What I wanted to say and what came out were diametrically opposed. I mean, what I wanted to say is, of course, this person's going to come back into your life. You just need to be patient. But what actually came out was, no, it's done for now. It's over. This person's not going to be in your life. And that was strange because, like I said, it is not what my heart wanted to hear. It is not what my head wanted to hear. And yet that came out of me. and it was a strange thing. And so I think the thing that's the most important about the questions you asked when we were in that part of the session was that it made me feel, after the session was over, that I am in fact in control of my future. I'm in control of who I am and who I want to become. I'm in control of my actions. I'm in control of, my world. And it also helped me realize that, you and I have talked about this before, but it helped me realize that everything is temporary. And, though, and when I say everything, let's be really clear. We like to talk about everything being temporary. We talk about the bad stuff, right? I mean, when you say everything is temporary, it's to help you get through the tough stuff. It's to help you get through the pain and the heartache. Helps you get through the hard times when you have something going on in your professional life or something going on in your private life, and you can just tell yourself, yeah, it's all temporary. It's all temporary. But the joy and the happiness is also temporary. And those fleeting moments that you have in your life are only here temporarily, and you need to appreciate them. And there was something about that portion of the higher self, because it connected, when you're doing the actual past lives portion of it, it connects you to who you were in the past. But the higher self connects you to the grander scheme or the grander plan. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. That portion of it connects you to, like, that thing that is, the fairy godmother, right? The fairy godmother that is the fairy godmother in us all. and the fact that it came from me, and that there was something inside me that was living this same life with me as a part of me and not a part of me. Does that, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to describe it. It's like my current life is just a brief portion of what that higher self experiences. And knowing that that higher self is there and overlooking and overseeing what I do on a daily basis it's comforting. And it's particularly comforting because it's actually me. And it's the better part of me that is constantly keeping watch and keeping an eye on what I'm doing. And it's it's the Buddha within all of us. It's, I don't know how else to describe it. And that part of our session was really powerful, even though brief. It was really powerful. So yeah, it's wild.
Well, thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Guess, do you have any final thoughts for anyone? Or anyone, everyone? I don't know what's grammatically correct there. Everyone? Someone?
Anyone. Yeah. I think the only thing that I would encourage everyone to do is that if this is something you're interested in, don't hesitate to do it. And approach it with an open mind, because like we said, and Daniel's going to tell you, it's not what you're going to expect. And I'm going to tell you, it's not what you're going to expect, but there's no way for you to completely understand it until you do it. And it really helps you get in tune with who you are, or who you want to become. And this life that we live here now is just a brief part of our whole existence. And you can't fully grasp that until you allow yourself to experience some of the other parts of it.
I have a question for you with regards to expectations.
Yes.
In the session. Was it more of a spectacle than you were expecting, or less of a spectacle?
It was much less of a spectacle, but I say that in a good way. It was I was expecting, honestly, to be in some sort of trance of some kind, right? I was expecting to be, who knows? I was expecting maybe I was going to start speaking in tongues, or there was going to be something super mystical about it, but there was no mysticism involved. There wasn't anything magic about it. It was just you opened a door and presented an opportunity for me to voice an experience. And that's all it was. It would be like you and I were sitting down with a beer or a cup of coffee or whatever your beverage of choice is, and we start talking. And somehow it just starts to flow. And it's as literally as simple as that. And it just happens. And I can't, it's not something you can fully describe until someone actually experiences it. And I encourage people to experience it.
I still can't even fully describe it to you. I remember my first session. I thought it was going to be a huge spectacle. I thought my practitioner was going to throw a robe on at some point and do, just some kind of, we'll start waving a wand around. Although I was kind of, hesitant to go into the process for that reason, but I was very excited to do it nonetheless. But the spectacle was nothing. It was more simple than I ever could have imagined, but it was more profound than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was, I think you kind of hit it on the head there. It's so simple, but its effect on me has been, well, to steal your word, it's been profound. And so much so that, like I said, I recognize I'm not even ready to do it again yet.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I want to do it, I know that I still need to learn from the lessons and the messages that I got from the first session and really fully process that. Because, once again, like something we've discussed before, there's a good chance that if we did another session tomorrow, I'm just going to be shown a lot of the same kind of mistakes, or the same kind of life history, because I haven't resolved that yet. And that was the thing about the higher self. You asked some questions and my mind went blank that I couldn't answer. And you sought some clarification. And it was clear that there was information there that I wasn't ready to have. There was information there that my higher self didn't believe that my current cognitive self was prepared to deal with. And that's a big thing.
Well, as we spoke about before, I have nothing but respect for that. And by proxy, nothing but respect for you. But also not by proxy. I just have nothing but respect for you as well. So thank you for coming on and sharing all of that. And yeah, thank you for an incredibly grounded philosophical episode.
Well, I enjoyed this completely.
You too, my friend. And where can everyone reach you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Dad Gone Solo, or you can find me on TikTok also at Dad Gone Solo.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and cheers to the present and cheers to the future. I don't know why I got regal at the end there, but I guess I did. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, take it easy.
Yay. Fellow time travelers, your journey through time awaits you. Just want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're interested in discovering who, when, and where you have been throughout time, and you'd like to book a session with me, just go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can reach me through my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com.